Hey guys, so I'm just going to do kind of a quick sort of review reminders about the final portfolio. A little bit extra here. I'm going to go to the home page and just remind you, you can access through two places. You can go to the modules and it's at the very top. You can also go to your assignment sheets tab on the home page, and there's a place you can click on it that'll again just like take you to the module here. And when you click on it, it'll take you to that main page. Couple of reminders. You do have some samples at the bottom. Just sort of keep in mind again that these samples are for ideas kind of only. They don't duplicate the requirements. Look at your own requirements for your own assignment sheet, for your own assignments, just because some things again like have been condensed because of the nature of the semester, and every semester is a little bit different. So don't rely on the examples for requirements. Rely on them for getting ideas about how to add things to Wix and how your pages could look. The point of the portfolio, it is 50% of your grade, and it is very much like a final exam. Reason being, it includes work from the semester, your project, which is the major part of the grade that you've been working on all semester. It includes your writing theory. You've been getting ideas from it, all semester. It is sort of the culmination of like kind of a display of what you learned. It gives you a chance to revise your work, select work that you want to show me in portfolio classes. Because of that selection, it's not like an exam that you kind of study for. There's like prompts and you select work that you want me to see and are able to get feedback ahead of time. So it does tend to be perfectly honest, like people do tend to make higher grades in portfolio-based classes just because there's a lot of, I guess, student options here for what you decide to include and talk about and that kind of stuff. If you didn't learn it, didn't do the assignment, aside from major assignments, you just wouldn't include it. You wouldn't talk about. You're allowed to sort of focus on choosing parts of the class that you want to talk about. You are making this on a Wix website, and there are two pages. There's like the portfolio page. I did ask people, like, this is a single page site, just like the syllabus, and you don't have to have a menu for this. For the digital essay, if you do choose to leave your menu, you can, hide it. You'll only have one page showing up, and that's your portfolio, obviously, or you can just delete, the link. Delete the menu altogether. And there's a video that shows you how to do that. And then you'll provide a link to the annotated bib, to the digital essay, like on the portfolio page. You may do it several times, like during the content. So there's two sorts of pages. The first thing is you have, the main portfolio. It's going to be up to you to, provide access to your inquiry project here. It's going to be up to you to decide like how you want it to look, playing with design, that kind of stuff. You're going to have two basic parts, like obviously your introduction to your portfolio, and that's going to, include things like explaining like the purpose of the portfolio as a collection of work from the course and what it shows. It should offer like relevant information about, the site itself and what it is. It should talk about like our key concepts, like in your own words, like some things, the main things we've been working on, the skills we've been working on, and information about your project and what's on the site, including, your writing theory, because it's going to be coming up just underneath this. Then this is your writing theory. Again, we've brainstormed and, done some practice selecting work for this coming up to it. So you should have a lot of things already that you can, use to kind of build off of for this part of your portfolio. It's just a matter of going back, through your work. And then I'll open up the detailed instructions that we kind of went over earlier in the term for the writing theory. And it's going to take a few minutes to load. So here's the writing theory. I did make an amendment from when we went over this earlier in the semester and took 300 words off the word count. You're welcome. at least over the minimum people do honestly tend to go over this 1,200 words. Like a lot of times the word count sounds like a whole lot, and then when you start writing, you end up going over it without even realizing it. Um, so the main point here is to not, with the writing theory, is not necessarily to make an argument about, how much you've learned, or to sort of overview what we did in the class. The point is for you to, I guess, as I put in the quote up here, like, teachers don't want you to say certain things, they want you to think in certain ways. The goal here is for you to write about your own perceptions of writing based on the kind of writing you need to do, like as for you, move forward into your major or your field, based on what you've been taught previously and based on the work, in the class. You're going to discuss your, like, as an overview, like your perceptions of good writing. You're going to talk about purposes for writing for yourself, people and classes that have influenced you, and then you'll examine, as part of that reflection at the end, how this class informed part of it. So it should be unique to you, because of your own experiences, but also informed by what you learned this semester in class. So just kind of a detailed breakdown here, some specific prompts to answer that you'll have already done, and requirements that you'll have already sort of worked with this semester. And this is your personal theory of writing. This is your big picture of good writing. Couple of things you want to make sure you do is, like, this is skills that good writers have. This is referencing, to, and I guess you could do this kind of down here as well, as long as it's covered, but 2 of the 5 key concepts have to be mentioned in here. Make sure that you pay attention to which 2 you use. Don't just drop 2, because you're going to come back and select work from the semester down here, and you want to make sure that if you said it was important up here, that you talk about it, that there's some consistency there, that you talk about it in the reflection. So it does give you, again, some room to personalize it. Some of the big ones that people choose are, honestly, rhetorical knowledge is a popular one because it includes, like, genre and modes and appeals and audience and a lot of stuff that people have a lot of work to talk about. Critical reading, because the entire research, like all the research that you did for the inquiry project, like scholarly articles, things with, like, evaluating sources. All of those things, the scholarly, like the close reading of the scholarly articles, content farms. Like, if it was about research, it was about critical reading, because research is reading. So people tend to pick that one a lot. I wouldn't recommend critical reflection, because then you're writing a reflection about reflection. Composing processes is another one that people will sometimes choose, especially because you have to give a detailed, like, reflection of your project anyway, and talk about your habits and things that do and don't work for you and what you learned about your own writing and thinking. And so those are some ones that people tend to kind of reference a lot. It just has to be at least 2. Reference 1 outside text. It could be something from the semester, from our reading, or you can kind of find another text that supports your points about writing. With this, you're also kind of getting into, like, what good writing looks like for you. We kind of talked about that. That's like academic or professional. Which writing or communication contexts are most important for you. I think we talked about, like, times when earlier in the semester, about times when writing and reading are really important. And we've talked about, like, advertisement, news, and bias, and all kinds of stuff. So it could be like personal reading. It could be, like, mainly just for class if you're going into a job that includes a lot of writing. If you've learned, I guess, something about, like, evaluating sources and research for making, for doing your own, like, research into, I don't know, further inquiry ideas, further classes, stuff you want to learn more about, politics, all that fun stuff. What influences that you've had. If you say that you still believe, grammar is, super important, where did that come from? If you have always struggled or feel like you've always struggled with writing and research, where did that come from? You can talk about like favorite authors or people that have influenced you. It's really up to you to pick a couple of things. And again, I know this kind of seems like a lot, but reflective writing is a little bit like one of those things, like you're writing about you. It's personal for a lot of people. It just sort of comes out, you know. Your writing theory reflection is more about class, sort of like a class reflection. You're going to mainly talk about like changes that have taken place in your theory over the course of the semester. You had made a couple of different revisions and additions, so talking a little bit about that. Activities and writing in class that changed or better supported your beliefs, so talking about what changed, showing evidence from your work, and talk about skills that you've worked on. If you said critical reading was important, what work did you do with that this semester? Some things you need to do. You have to reference again at least those two key concepts. You need at least 8 examples of your work, and examples can be, early drafts in your history in your Google Doc. It can be feedback, it can be notes, it can be studio work. I mean, basically, like if it's about your writing and it was this semester, like you can use it. A lot of people will sometimes choose to include even like before and afters. Like they'll talk about their digital essay, and so they'll use like an early draft and brainstorming, and then they'll use like some of the practices that they did with like modes and specific things, or like in integrating sources, and kind of bring some things together. Let's see. Hit 10 total because you have those final drafts of the annotated bib and the digital essay. But again, like the digital essay, the final draft kind of takes care of itself because you're obviously gonna like reference it and link to it anyway. Same thing with the annotated bib. So you will have 10 total, but those last 2 are just like the final drafts of from your project. For both assignments, I do want a detailed kind of reflection. If you want to make this a separate section with a few pieces that you can, some people decide to order this by talking about like specific changes early on and showing some of their like work that they did early in the semester, like their studio work and practice work or reading responses. And then they get into their project and talk about that next, and sort of break it down and include a few examples with their annotated bib and their digital essay. Often that is the easiest way to sort of do it. So like, what has changed in my writing theory this semester? Use some examples of work, and then get into your project and kind of reflecting on that and what you've worked on. And there's some specific prompts there. You do need to include images, examples of all the work from the class that you talk about. Images must be readable. I do not want to download any files. It's not reader friendly in any way, because they might have to download all these files from all these portfolios, sift through them, delete them. It's a lot. It's a lot harder than just making sure that you put images of your work and links on the site. And then making sure that you just some ideas here. Provide images or links to specific work being referenced as either, so some ideas, you could do it like within the body of the writing theory. I believe there's some examples that showed this, like how the images just, are included as they talk about it. Some people choose to use a gallery. I think one of the examples does this, where maybe they, almost like citations, they put a gallery with all of the work that they want to include elsewhere or at the bottom of the writing theory. Each picture is numbered, and then they just include the number where they, talk about it. There's several ways you can kind of work this out. Make sure you provide like names and titles for like course text being referenced, and specific titles and like context for activities that you're talking about. There's a little bit more down here, like ideas for brainstorming and organization, that kind of stuff. In terms of how it's going to be assessed, I have a few things down here that just sort of help like how you're going to be graded. So there's like a little summative list with just some reminders, I guess, of like some of the big requirements that you want to make sure that you sort of look over. I do include on the rubric like kind of an evidence of effort in the final portfolio. For like if you had revised and worked really hard on something, the score was a little bit lower. It gives me like a little extra, almost like an engagement bump. Just keep in mind that I have to have evidence of effort, meaning like, workshops, emails, feedback. Like I can see that you revised stuff. No, like verbal, like I guess like verbally attesting that you did work hard on something. I look at my own track record of what I've seen from you over the term for that bonus. So just reminders to like answer all the prompts, like quote or reference at least one like outside source. Again, it can be a class reading referencing, key concepts, 10 references to like work or course readings. You have to have a reflection on the annotated bib and digital essay, and then pay attention to reader friendliness and design and some of the things that we talked about. I've also included just some skills to really sort of, think about, especially for like a strong like writing theory. And you can see I go over some of this in some of the examples. So a writing theory usually explains, like I'm also looking for understanding of course material. So when you're talking about it, if you say you understood or learned or even struggled with modes, you understand enough that you can explain it. So not just like I learned a lot about modes, but like, okay, I learned a lot about modes. What are they? Like, what did you learn? How did you work with it? Discussion of those like relevant experiences and other things outside of class that kind of influenced your writing theory. Diverse and effective selection of examples of work. So there's consistency. It comes together. It makes sense. It's harmonious. We talked about that with design, but you're not talking about knowledge of conventions in your writing theory and then talking about rhetorical experience. Rhetorical knowledge and then choosing examples that don't have anything to do with rhetorical knowledge. You're making good choices and you have a nuanced like use of key concepts and writerly language. I've provided you a handy dandy list that's sort of linked here that you can go through and grab some of these terms. A lot of them are honestly like also from like the reflections that we've done. There's terms like reminders from quizzes and things like that. So you can like go grab some writerly language. Again, like it's selective. Like if you don't remember what it was, don't talk about it. If you can talk about it, come here, see if there's words that you know, terms that you know that can help you with your reflection. I'm going to come back here. Relevant and insightful connections across different texts and ways of talking about writing. It means like, like I said, like quoting from course text, you have to do at least one. Appropriately frame, quotes with course content. Appropriately frame those quotes from your course text. So if you're talking about if you're pulling in like something from our journal that you have an author title and that kind of stuff, you've given some information about it. You've made connections to outside of class in terms of like what you learned about research and communication and modes. Reflections on your digital essay and the annotated bib. I'm just going to go back. You also have your portfolio, which is your digital essay. So there's just a link, here to take you straight to that assignment sheet. Your examples are down here. And then I'm going to click on the assessment and rubric as my last thing. Just go over this for a minute or two really quickly. Your portfolio is graded on these things. So 5% is the portfolio intro, design, and reader friendliness. So that part at the beginning where you explain, welcome and explain. These are kind of your big picture things, where you introduce and explain like what your portfolio is for, what it shows about the course, your key concepts, all that stuff, and then just in general how you played with design and reader friendliness. Again, this is something to actually practice in terms of like not being perfect at design, but just noticeable effort that you made to try to play with design on your website. It's better to have tried and have it not go well than to not try at all. In terms of like if you're worried about it, and try to play it safe. Like it's always better to show that you tried to play with what Wix can do and use some things to support your words, and that you tried to anticipate like what would be you know, easiest for the reader in terms of like navigating and explaining things. That's 5%. 20% is your writing theory. As you can see, the major part, 60% of your portfolio grade comes from your annotated bib and your digital essay. So we've been, you know, working on, you know, either like research and writing for these things for the whole term. We've, you know, workshopped. If you still need help or questions about things, you're welcome to send me an email, but this is 30%, these are 30% each. The key, and 15% is key concepts knowledge. It means that like these are our key concepts, our 5 key concepts for the course that we went over, that I've been saying like the inquiry project and the writing theory are the platform to work on these things. Knowledge of conventions of writing features and genre. That's, you know, you worked with 2 completely different writing styles. We worked with like citations. We worked with like features of academic writing. You have your, you know, composing process. We talked about like your specific like, you know, habits and what your strengths and weaknesses are. Rhetorical knowledge. Very heavily we worked on this in the digital essay. Critical reading is in both. Like we did a lot with like with research and selecting and integrating sources and all kinds of stuff. Critical reflection is your writing theory. For some of these, I gave you a few like little assignments that would, you know, really be something to pay attention to here. So like I'm going to delete this word, so that's a little confusing. Your like portfolio, I'm going to say like the intro, your writing theory as a whole, and then more specifically that reflection on your project. Evidence of effort, again, this is something that like it allows me wiggle room to work with people who maybe have like a lower grade on an assignment, but it wasn't because they didn't try. They didn't. It's not because you didn't, you know, send me emails, ask for help. It was not because you didn't do the brainstorming and the activities that we did, or make noticeable revisions, come to workshops. It's something that I offer like up to 5 points for on the portfolio, just on an individual basis. It can't be from anything that like that you know, might just state about how hard you worked. It has to be from evidence that I have in your records of like work that you did, emails you sent, you know, workshops you attended, that kind of stuff. And then the quiz bonus, again, I said if your, you know, quiz average is over 100%, you can keep up to 3 points and add that onto your portfolio grade as well. Let's see. Now this is a list. What I have here is, you know, kind of a breakdown. And again, oh, sorry, it jumped up. So I'm down here again for this like portfolio, intro, design, reader friendliness, that's your 5%. Here are things that are minimum requirements. And then here are things that like, you know, if you're shooting for like a stronger grade, these are the more like abstract like goals and expectations that you work on to show you practice skills and knowledge and things from the course. So descriptions of key concepts being like accurate and helpful. Your, you know, intro explains the site. Like it's clear that you understand like what the portfolio is for in the class. You've paid attention to really like, you know, trying to practice making your design and your page like reader friendly. Annotated bib, again, like some basic requirements versus like some goals that we worked on. Same thing with the digital essay. It goes through requirements. And again, what this does, I hope, is it actually, like we've had a lot of like little assignment sheets and little videos and little things all semester, and this just sort of pulls everything into one big checklist. So you can go through everything using just this, like everything on your portfolio using just this page. That's really it. Sorry this was so long. It was a lot kind of thrown at you. One time a little bit on the longer side for the videos that I usually post, but again, let me know if you have any questions. Peace.